Hey guys, it's Brother Arcanine. Today's video is a little different. I'm doing a voiceover of pre-recorded battles. Today isn't about the battles, but, well, I do Pokemon battles on this channel, so really quickly, the team is an all-cat team, and the reason for that is that this video is in memory of my cat, Romulus, who has recently passed on. I've wanted to make this video for a while, but struggled with what I wanted to say. I even wrote a script for this episode, but as I wrote it, I found myself at a loss for words. I guess I'll start by talking about my cat, Romulus, Rom for short, though I would usually call him Rom Rom or Bum Bum or Rum Bum. He had many nicknames. Feels weird calling him my cat, just as weird as it may sound to you that I call him my son. I know not everyone is a cat person, so some may have already had thoughts in their head like, who cares, he's just a cat. So let me say that before he came into my life, I was 100% a dog person. I had, when I was a child, found an abandoned kitten and nursed it back to health, and I loved it very much. I had another cat later on that I loved, and I printed off a picture of it and hung it on my bedroom wall when it passed. But this cat was so much more than that, more than a cat. He really was like a son to me. He was originally my wife's cat, and he came into my life when she did. From then, it didn't take long for me to love Rom with my whole heart. He was a rescue with an insatiable appetite for cuddles. Along with his many nicknames, we would call him Purr Monster. He never once bit or scratched another soul. Not when he was at the vets getting thermometers stuck up his butt. Not when he was caged as a rescue. Not when he was brought to a new home and was perhaps scared and confused. Not when he was, for a short time, sharing an apartment with another cat that, let's say, was not the gentlest with him. Through his entire life, he did nothing but spread love and joy to all who entered his life. He was FIV positive, which for those of you who don't know, is exactly like HIV, but for cats. So we knew from day one that he wasn't going to be healthy always, and that his time with us might be short. But still, as his parents, my wife and I did everything we could to monitor his health and get him treatment when it was needed. One day, he started coughing, and we found out he had asthma. So we got him an inhaler, gave it to him as needed. Then he had gastrointestinal problems, and I had to stick him with needles and force feed him medicine. We hated it as much as he did, but we stayed strong so that we could give him the care he needed to be happy and healthy. One night, about a week or two ago, my wife woke up in the middle of the night, around 4 a.m., and told me Rom was having trouble breathing. He was having very labored breaths and breathing with his mouth open, so something was obviously very wrong, so we took him to the emergency vet clinic. They took some scans and found that he was in heart failure. We were presented with options such as oxygen and diuretics, and were told that he might get better, but he would have to stay by himself at the clinic, and it could take days to weeks to months of him suffering, and hopefully getting better. However, with all his other problems, it was most likely that another complication would arise during treatment, and he would need to be away from us longer, alone, scared, being poked by needles, surrounded by other sick and dying animals, causing him more and more stress. We made a decision that was simply the hardest decision of our lives. We decided to put him down. We could see it in his eyes, the pain he was in, and knowing what he would have to go through, we decided that a peaceful death would be much better than a life which would be nothing but suffering. It's hard to say we did the right thing. It's even harder to believe it. But honestly, keeping him alive for our own sake, as it would have been, as he would not have been happy with the quality of life he would have had left, that would have just been unfair to him. His suffering would have been just so that we could keep him in the world regardless of the fact that we would have been causing him unnecessary torture. Instead, they brought him into a little room. We talked for a time, making sure it was the right thing to do. We cuddled him, told him we loved him, said our goodbyes, that he was the best son any parent could ask for, that he would always be in our hearts. Then he was laid down on a blanket on my wife's lap. We both held them as they put the drugs in him. The first drug was a sleeping aid. I'm told it was something that boosts happiness. So he went to sleep with a great feeling of euphoria. Then the final shots basically overpowered his heart and made it stop within seconds. I knew it right away that my boy was gone. I knew it before the vet said so. I knew it the second he was gone. And while I couldn't stop crying, I did feel good in a way. In that second, I felt all his pain wash away, and I felt him gone from his body, but then I felt him all around me. When we got home, I felt like every single molecule was filled with his soul. He was all around us, loving us still. Until that day, I had only believed in spirits and souls out of my own fear of dying, but I really truly felt his spirit all around me. There can be no doubt that he is alive in some form, that he is happier now, being freed from his body, and that one day we'll meet again. As a cat, Rom obviously took a lot of naps. My wife and I would say he was in Catland. I think he's somewhere like that now, enjoying himself and spreading his love. The next part, I want to speak about dealing with his loss, in case any of you are going through the same, or may one day go through the same. I hope sharing my experience can help you in some way. The first few days were the hardest. I had to clean out his litter box, a chore that of course wasn't pleasant. I mean, who wants to be handling poop and pee? But as I cleaned it out for the last time, all I could think was how I wish he was there to pee and poop and get litter all over his paws. Because I have a broom and a dustpan, and the dustpan has a little duck on it. Every time I use it, I get upset because I think about how I would have to sweep my apartment twice a day to keep it clean from all the litter he tracked around. Now all I want is for him to make a mess for me to clean up. They say you don't know what you've got till it's gone, and it's true. Though I loved him every day, took care of him, fed him, gave him medicine, of course, all the cuddles that I could. So I never neglected him, but I didn't realize just how much he was in my thoughts. Every time I wake up, I look for him, because he would be sleeping next to me or my wife, on his own pillow or on one of ours. He loved to sleep on our heads, or between us, and I would always cuddle him for a bit after my wife got out of bed, and now I can't. Every time I would close the bathroom door to shower, I'd think, is Rom okay, before I went in. Every time I leave the house and close the door, I would think the same. Every time I return home, I look for him. Every time I sit down to watch a show, I miss him on my lap. I started cleaning his things, putting them all in a bag. Anytime I saw anything that reminded me of him, I would break down into tears. I was planning on throwing things out and or giving them away. They're all organized and ready to go, but it breaks my heart to think of getting rid of those things. It's the right thing to do, let another family have those things so that Cat can enjoy its life as Rom did. But I don't have the strength to let that part of him go yet. So again, for those of you in my shoes, it hurts like hell every day, and you'll never feel like you 100% made the right call. We don't know the future. We don't know if he could have gotten better and lived happily for years. All we know is that it was extremely unlikely. Here are some ways that I have worked to feel better. I know for sure that we saved him lots of suffering. I know for sure that he was not only loved by us, but loved us back and felt loved by us. I feel better continuing to love him. Continuing to live my life is what he would want. He was a kind creature, so I carry him in my heart and everywhere I go. He was a house cat, but now that he's passed, I imagine him with me wherever I go. He's always there. And now in his new spirit form, he can see the world by my side. I was walking through a park. The ice and snow were melting, and it was all covered in a mysterious fog. I thought he must think it was so cool. And he will get to see all sorts of things now that he isn't trapped in that body of pain. It makes me feel better to honor his memory and create something for him. On top of this, I am making a photo album and a sort of sketchbook. My wife and I are writing our favorite memories of him and then drawing a little cartoon about that moment. There are things you can do that will help, but let me say that it will hurt so much that you feel like you're dying, that your heart can't take it. I probably wouldn't be able to handle it without my wife's support. So grieve, let the sadness take you over. There's no shame in tears and pain. Embrace it. Every tear you shed is a laugh you once had with that animal. So cry, alone, with people who share your pain, mourn, then slowly, with each day, get a little better. Remember the good parts, not just the ending. Remember the silliness of your lost loved one. Remember all the love and laughter. Don't get swallowed by the sadness forever. Do things in their memory, for them and for you. Everyone grieves in their own way, so find the way that is best for you and embrace it. Another thing that we're planning on doing is when we get his ashes, one day we're going to put them in the soil of a new tree and it'll grow. I don't want his memory to be all about his pain or about his last moments, so I'll take a few memories of my son so that hopefully his life of silliness will give you some joy as he gave me so much joy. Rom wasn't a big cat. Even the biggest of house cats aren't big compared to humans. But one day when the three of us were laying in bed, Rom let out two huge, audible farts. He had a look of shock on his face that killed me with laughter. Another time, he was feeling hungry, I suppose, and stuck his head in an empty popcorn bag. Of course, he got stuck and looked like a hilarious fool whipping it around trying to get free. And not too often, but often enough, he would get his tongue stuck in his mouth, so that just a little bit of it was sticking out. He always looked so silly, and that gave me so much laughter and joy. But he also warmed my heart and shared a special love with me, so I want to remember those cuddles we had each morning, those nights when we'd fight for who got to sleep on my pillow, the nights we all cuddled together as a family, each and every cuddle we had. All the times he would play with his catnip toys, the faces he would make, the many positions he slept in, the cute way he would cross his paws, or the diver pose he was so fond of sleeping in. All the times he would lick my nose while being a purr monster, and when he would headbutt me trying to cuddle. I'll remember all of this and more. So, finally I want to say, Rom, you were a perfect cat. You have a perfect soul. Your love made me better, and I am grateful for every second I had of it. I love you with my whole heart and always will. You are my son, and you are deeply missed. But I know that you are still here, and I can feel you. Thank you so much for everything. You were the best son a father could ask for. I love you.